There you are. Um,
There we go.
yeah, and he's in sync. It's just great. So, welcome, Philip.
Okay.
Thanks so much for joining us. You're back in Lviv,
Hmm.
over near the
Polish border.
The European sort. Yes, the Polish quarter. Yes, the European side of things. Just as, by the way, things are heating up in the south around
Yep.
Kherson, and
Kherson.
and then of course up in the east, it seems like everywhere it's almost like everywhere the Ukrainians probe to in areas that the Russians claim they have, they're not finding as many people as they think. The idea being that there should be in an area that you've claimed that you have control of. One would think there would be enough soldiers and materials there to hold said area. Therefore, you can say you've claimed it. But every time they seem to look, not so much. But where do we start? Do we start with the joy of Channel One and the fact that and they're basically saying that what I've been saying for a while, which is that on top of all this stuff, it's really just resource theft on top of all their other garbage talking points. That this is really just like, look at all the oil and gas and the seaports, and we need that land because we're doomed without it, and our country's crap, and so we just need ports and oil and gas because it's all we do.
Yeah.
So
Well, they're slowly shedding all their pretext
mhm,
that they started the war with, and they're just getting down to the reality of we just want that land, and we don't want Ukrainians to be have self determination, and
right,
it never had anything to do with Nazis. Never had anything to do with
right,
it never had anything to do with the subjugation of the people in the Donetsk and the poor Russian speaking population in the east of Ukraine. Those were all just That's all just what they used to excuse their aggression.
colonialism.
There's no
Yeah,
other word for it.
yeah. I would say they're standard run of the mill imperial colonialism, old fashioned. Take
100%.
land because you need what's
I'm
under it.
big, you're small. I can take what you have because you can't defend yourself.
Right.
Was the idea, and the Ukrainians are proving them that maybe they're wrong about that.
Yeah. Again, this the Kherson story, and if you can maybe catch people up on the importance of Kherson, and so I don't just blather on about it.
Well,
Um,
Kherson's important. Well, there's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack when we talk about Kherson.
mhm,
Kherson strategically is important because one, it is the gateway across the Dnieper River
mhm,
in that sector of the country. Two, it is where the fresh water canal starts from a dam along the Dnieper River,
mhm,
and the fresh water is taken then and goes down to the Crimean Peninsula. So in order to support, it's a domino effect. In order to have a Black Sea fleet, you have to have Sevastopol. In order to have Sevastopol, you have to have Crimea. In
mhm,
order to have Crimea, you have to have the water canal because there is no fresh water.
mhm.
Crimea is relatively barren, actually. It's not a really fertile land. So they have to bring in fresh water. And so all of these domino effects, and then ultimately, in order to control Crimea, you have to have a land bridge because the sea bridge is not viable.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's really, in many ways, it ultimately leads to the Black Sea Fleet. But along the way, you have so much territory that's important, and Kherson is a linchpin in that. Now, in addition to talking about Kherson as strategically important, we also have to discuss a little bit about the way that Kherson fell, because it was the first major city the Russians took
Mhm.
when they invaded in February 24th. And there was a lot of strange circumstances in the way that Kherson fell. Uh, there were apparently sympathizers with the Russians. There were turncoats.
Right.
There were I mean, they've been described by the Ukrainians as traitors. And since Kherson was taken in February, the Russians have been trying to annex it, like they did Crimea, like they kind of attempted to do in the Donbass, where they have these fake referendums. And the problem with that is that the Kherson Oblast bridges both sides of the river, so that's really difficult for them to try and achieve complete control of the oblast and then hold a fake referendum. But a lot of very, very hinky stuff happened in the beginning of the war, and a lot of suspicion that somebody was either had real sympathy with Moscow,
Mhm.
or was bought, basically, or coerced in other ways to betray their country and let the Russians in. And then since the occupation began of Kherson, there have been a number of reports trickling out about a number of assassination attempts, some successful, some not, a lot of partisan activity. There's a pocket down there of actual guerrilla warfare, not just like subterfuge, but really fighting behind enemy lines.
Mhm.
And then a lot of very shrewd, smart civil disobedience and ways of disrupting Russia's attempt to kind of take control of Kherson. I mean, even to the point of like, there's the one of the great stories I heard out of Kherson. Now it's probably 2 months old. Was a bunch of Russian soldiers rocked up to a restaurant in Kherson
Mhm.
and asked for a bunch of shish kebabs, and then they gave them shish kebab laced with rat poison
Oh,
and
right.
killed
Yeah.
like 5 of them.
Mhm.
So, there's civil disobedience going on there. There's a lot of there are, like the Ukrainian flag raised over the train station in Kherson 2 months into the occupation. There's
And
stories of posters being put up. One of the great things I saw in the last week or so was that there's a poster apparently being put up around the oblast that in Russian says, Russian occupiers go home,
Mhm.
or the HIMARS will make you stay here forever.
Right. It's like the woman with the sunflower seeds at the beginning of the
Yep,
thing. Now,
exactly right.
um, there's so many things I want to address, and uh, recently though, the Justice Department. I don't know if you saw this, but they
Oh, the arrest?
yeah, they unsealed. Well, they
Yeah,
unsealed an indictment in Florida, of all states.
yeah.
And the title of it is Russian national charged with conspiring to have U.S. citizens act as illegal agents of the Russian government.
Yep.
An indictment was unsealed today in Tampa, Florida, charging a Russian national working on behalf of the Russian government and in conjunction with the Russian Federal Security Service, the FSB, with allegedly orchestrating a years-long foreign malign influence campaign that used various U.S. political groups to sow discord, spread pro-Russian propaganda, and interfere in elections within the United States. This guy, Alexander Viktorovich Ionov, a resident of Moscow, together with at least 3 Russian officials, engaged in a years-long foreign malign influence campaign targeting the United States. He's the founder and president of the anti-globalization movement of Russia. That's adorable. And an organization headquartered in Moscow and funded by the Russian government. Ionov utilized AGMR to carry out Russia's influence campaign. So, by the way, when you hear the globalists, the globalists languaging, that dude played a big part in why that word is floating around in your
Yep.
transom when you're discussing things.
Yep.
By
By the way, it's really like so much of the world right now. It's really hot here in July in Lviv.
Yeah.
So I opened up the window so that I could get a little bit of fresh air into this. But you might get a little bit of, we have a musician on the square behind me. So
There's
you're going
nothing
to
wrong with
get
that.
a little bit of musical entertainment while we
Oh, that'd be
talk.
great.
Totally good.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, so that indictment also comes on the heels of the news of did you hear about the arrest also in Florida? Certainly, probably part of the larger cell of a couple, a man and a woman,
Right.
who were deep cover, have been in the States for decades, like late 80s, I think I want to say, early 90s.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, he was, the man had been in the Coast Guard and had been a military contractor. You know, now we're hearing, not only are we hearing about these arrests, these indictments in Florida, and this kind of, you know, asymmetrical warfare and political information warfare, but we're also hearing the same thing is happening, you know, in Italy, in other EU countries. We had better wake up in the West very quick to the fact that, you know, Russia may not find success on the battlefield, but there's every chance that because they really are good at it. You got to hand credit where credit's due. They're very good at subterfuge and espionage. And they get more bang for their buck that way, and they're gonna disrupt our elections. They're going to. They have been, and they're going to ramp it up. So every American, every person who has an election coming up in a Western country that's involved in defending Ukraine or supporting the Ukrainians, or even if not, just to drive a wedge between Western powers or internally within Western countries and Western democracies, the Russians are going to do it. Well, and we better be aware of it, and we better. I mean, this had better be something on everybody's minds. Especially as we go into November.
I would argue, and have in the past, that there's a tendency to give too much credit in the case of Russia and China to some degree, and of course Trump, about how effective they are at manipulating the electorate, at manipulating, you know, like our society and its openness. But in reality, it's sort of the equivalent of a, you know, and I'm not making a direct parallel, so people calm down, but like a serial killer who, you know, kills, you know, nurses or people, you know, who are looking the other way, people they can physically overwhelmed. I'm going to Cobra for my visual imagery on this, but the idea that they're attacking people who are easy to take, and it's because they don't expect a threat. Civilized people are often caught off guard by mass acts of uncivilized behavior. That's what mass shooters take advantage of. And this is the information version of a school shooter. That's what they do.
Yeah, well, and what they are so good at, and this is, again, I mean, I think they are effective at what they do, but they're one of the things they're really good at, because they study us so intrinsic. I mean, this is a major focus of their attention, is to get us to fight amongst ourselves. So they won't go and make things happen on an overt large scale.
Right.
But what they will do is they'll put, you know, Maria Butina, Butina at the NRA, and
have her sleep with the Overstock guy.
Have whispers in their ear, and then they'll do it themselves, or they'll set up a Black Lives Matter rally across from a Guns for Jesus rally in Texas.
And they're in both groups.
And then just go, have at it, boys.
Right.
Because they know that they get the ball rolling, but then they they sit back and they just watch the fuse as it heads towards the explosion.
We have to take a break, but the two people you're talking about are a Hawaiian couple who moved to Florida. They lived under the ID of 2 dead kids from Texas.
Yep.
We'll be back right after this.
I gotta think all that's connected.
Oh, yeah. It's the House Parks Radio program, mega worldwide. I mean, it looks like something from Stranger Things, Johnny. You have to see this. Look up Hawaiian couple charged with stealing IDs of dead Texas kids. Good times. We'll be back right after this.